a couple of jobs really. So, a few really. I line manage the arts, so basically drama and music, etc. That's my background. I still do, but most of my career before I became a teacher was as an actor. I trained to do that, and that's my background. So there's that I do, and that's allegedly what makes me interesting.
So can't just leave it like that. So I mean, when I spoke to you, you said that there was a famous musician out at the moment that had been that you taught in the past. Someone to do with Clean Bandit, I think. What was her name?
Well, if some people, maybe the younger ones, might know Anne-Marie. Mm-hmm. So Anne-Marie is, quite successful at the moment. She's worked with Clean Bandit. She is originally started. When she was at our school, she did GCSE drama, which I taught her, and then she went into doing the shows that I directed. And she also then went into the West End and did a number of shows there as well. And she was in Les Mis, etc. So her background really is in musical theatre. But when she left, she started to get into, because she liked all the sort of street scene, etc., into a lot of kind of that sort of singing and pop culture, etc. So anyway, it was one of those kind of in the right place at the right time. She had been signed by Sony, but wasn't really, nothing was really quite happening for her. And she was in a recording studio working on some material, and the next recording studio to her was a group called, I forget their name, Rudimental.
Okay.
So now Rudimental, at the time, one of their backing singers didn't turn up. And they asked her to step in, and she did, and they loved what she did. And then she just ended up joining them, went on tours, and then about a couple of years later, she ended up with a solo career, and now she's done American TV. She's all over, it's one of those things you could always tell when she was at school that she had talent. But you never can tell what someone's really going to do, because there's so much chance involved. But it's nice to have worked with over the years. In fact, I've worked with a lot of talented kids, and some take it further and some don't.
So how long have you been teaching? And you started off acting, did you went to drama school for a while, didn't you?
I still do. I do a few bits of acting every now and then, just to keep my hand in, and that's where I'm hoping to go back to again in a few years, full time. So now I'm sort of starting to put the bits in place to go back to that. Now my kids are grown up. But that was my background initially. So teaching wise, I've probably been doing that for about 19, 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and so in terms of your acting, is there any famous credits that you're prepared to share with us?
Yeah, well, I've done all the usual stuff like episodes of EastEnders and The Bill and all that kind of stuff, and Taggart and God knows, lots of adverts here and abroad, and a bit with one with Johnny Lee Miller. Do you know if you know Johnny Lee Miller?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, radio, really enjoy radio, all very different disciplines. So the way that you approach each medium is, what I find interesting anyway is how you technically approach those. So stage is very different to film, radio again, very different discipline. And I love a challenge, so that kind of thing is not just about your acting; it's also about your technique.
Okay. Sorry, I'll just jump in. It's funny you should mention about the radio, Lee, because when I was at school, this is one of the biggest compliments I've ever had. But a teacher said to me that you have got the perfect face for the radio, and
I would have said
my confidence went sky high.
Yeah, I'd say perfect face for radio and for slapping.
All right, cheers for that.
So, I took the liberty of looking up your profile on your agent's page, and it talks about your skills and your attributes and the various different dialects, I guess, or language, like accents that you can do, like I don't know, northern and all of these, and that's the thing, is that that's something that as an actor you need to have a string to your bow, that you be able to say, right, I can speak, like, if you want me to be someone from up north, I can be, I can do that accent, I can do.
Totally, yeah. I mean, to be honest, I know like impressionists can just like switch it on and off and that kind of stuff. And although you can do a kind of, a reasonable interpretation to when you're working on a character and you're working on the person, the accent it can be important. But you're really looking for that, what makes that person tick. But then when you start working on the words, then you start to assimilate those words and the accent, and you start to sort of refine it, and so you can to some degree switch it on and off, but it's not about just doing impressions. It's about how finding the rhythms that person talks in, and finding, the way that they speak. And then that leads you into kind of having a better grip of how they speak in that accent.
Okay. And you're also multilingual. Is that right? A couple of languages. You've got a couple of languages, ability for a couple of languages.
A little bit. Some Spanish, un poco de español, sí.
There you go. I'd have to get my daughter down to understand what you said. Yeah. She's the Spanish speaker. I'm the French speaker, and I understand you've got a bit of French in there as well, haven't you?
Lee just said
maybe un peu. J'aime le ping-pong. Où est la piscine?
It's funny, Lee just said in Spanish, you've got a face for the Radio Wars.
Did he?
He did, yeah. I just looked it up.
Well, I'm happy with that, because I've never been told I've got a face for anything. So at least that's a step forward. So yeah, no, that's really good. So and obviously the other thing, like through lockdown, you started posting. You did the odd video just to pass the time, where you did a bit of a bit of singing, playing guitar as well. So is that just something that is a pastime?
I've been playing guitar for a number of years. I wouldn't say I'm like an expert. Singing, I'm definitely not an expert. But I just like, it's one of those things, I think, where about over the years I've had guitars, but a few years ago I bought myself a really nice one. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to take a bit of time to, to learn a bit more about that, especially as I line manage the arts, etc. But I really enjoy it. It's something that's given me a lot of joy and a lot of peace. You probably know that, my mother passed away this year through COVID. And, so that was, and one thing she liked when we were, was we had a little sing song, etc. So for me, I don't expect, I don't profess to be a guitarist as such, but I just find it something that is always just, music itself has always kind of been something that's kind of struck a chord with me. I like all sorts. I'm very eclectic. If you ever listen to any of my playlists, they can be anything from the 20s to the, to modern day music. I love all sorts of music. Good music is good music.
And so do you find, I love music. I love singing, and I can be, I can go anywhere and I'll sing, and I'll, doesn't matter if I see someone walking towards me, I'll stop singing because I'll get a bit embarrassed, obviously. But then they can, as soon as I know that they're out of my sight, even if they're just a step behind me, they could be actually following me down the road behind me. Then I'm happy to carry on singing because, and I like you, I love all kinds of music, and I think that's probably my go-to in terms of, if I need to relax or chill out or de-stress or whatever, that's the thing for me, so.
And I'll do that, and it'll either be like, I'll listen to something and that will send me away, or I can easily spend, a couple of hours just sitting, pottering around on the guitar and just learning a new tune, or just kind of, messing around in it. I'd love to be better. I'd love to, but I feel like I'm competent. I could certainly manage a campfire.
You're good at guitar. Don't give me all that, Lee.
Yeah, I think you certainly seeing you play inspired me to really want to go back to like learning like the keyboard or the piano, however you want to term it, and dedicate a little bit more time to getting back to it, because it was something that when I was younger, I really when I was very young, I should have pursued it. Didn't pursue it because I wanted to be one of the cool kids. Then when I got a bit older and realised I didn't need to be one of the cool kids, I kind of went back to it. And then
it's a strange irony, though, isn't it? That when you're at school, and speaking from sometimes how that comes across is that maybe doing all that, it doesn't seem cool, yet when you're a pop star, you're as cool as fuck. So
100%.
How can that be? There's a weird paradox there that you as soon as you're someone who's on The Voice or someone who's a pop star, there's nothing cooler. Who's cooler than Prince? Who's cooler than that kind of some of the artists that Jamie likes. Well, he likes a lot of shit, these music, but
fuck off. Sleep even mods of quality.
They even ban you from where?
It's all forgiven now. It's all been sorted out, and we're friends again.
Different makeup.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so last bit for you before we move on is the so you've got the other string to your bow, obviously, is the home brewing that you do. So how did you get into that? Because you're always putting up different brews, and like I know you're drinking one of your brews, or you've been drinking one of your brews tonight. How did you get into that?
Well, I mean, it was a bit of a challenge. I'm a member of a WhatsApp group, which we all are, I suppose, and my one's called the Beer O'Clock Club. And about 10 years ago, we started to sort of go round and find places that did different brews and different beers. It was born out of, to be honest, it's a bit of a long journey, but I went to New York a few times, and over the last 10 or so years, they were really transforming how they made beer and little microbreweries. I've never seen anything like it here. You've got your traditional ales and all that kind of stuff, and I was just pretty much a stellar drinker. And then when I went out there and saw what they were doing, it was like, hang on, it's quite interesting. So when we came back, a number of us decided to go around in places and try and hunt out good beers. And then the challenge was laid down by one of us. Can we brew? And we did, and most of it was absolutely shit, and you could barely get through it. But out of that 10 of us, a couple of us stuck at it, and I'm pretty much the only one really that's kept sticking at it. And I got to a point where I was, invested in quite a bit of equipment and, doing my research, trying to learn how to do it. And actually Redemption was a big turning point for me, funnily enough, because I'd got to the point where I thought, well, I can brew, but a lot of my beers taste the same. And then I met Jacob, who's the head brewer at Redemption, and we got chatting, and I just said to him, what can I do? And he would give me advice on things like temperature control and water chemistry and all this kind of stuff, which at that point I'm thinking, what's all this, and more investment. But it was worth it, because it's absolutely, it's transformed what I do in terms of, I think the beer that I brew now is beer that I would be happy to buy. In fact, Jacob, I sent him one recently. I made a Kolsch, and he said it's the best home brew he's ever tried in his life. He's never had it. So, I was like that. Wow. What a compliment. Yeah. And it's a rabbit hole. A lot of these things when you careers are for making money, but hobbies are for throwing it away, right?
Throw stuff my way in the post.
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you tried some of my earlier